Hey guys, one day you will wake up and realize that most of your life is already behind you, and the version of you that could have lived differently is gone forever. Not because you didn't have time, but because you never noticed it slipping away in the first place. And that realization doesn't come with noise or drama. It arrives quietly, in a moment of stillness, when you finally stop being distracted long enough to see the truth you've been avoiding, that you've been busy, but not alive, occupied, but not fulfilled, moving, but not progressing. And if you feel even a slight discomfort hearing this, that's because part of you already knows it's true, because somewhere deep down you've felt it before, late at night or early in the morning. That subtle question that creeps in and asks, is this really how I want to live? But instead of answering it, you scroll, you distract, you postpone, telling yourself you'll figure it out later. When things settle down, when you have more time, when life finally gives you the space to think. But here's the part no one tells you. Life never slows down for you to wake up. It keeps moving, and every day you delay is a day that quietly disappears, never to be recovered. And the most dangerous part is that it doesn't feel like you're losing anything. It feels normal, comfortable, even productive, because everyone around you is doing the same thing, chasing goals they didn't choose, living by standards they didn't question, filling their days with things that don't matter, and calling it a life. And you might think this is just how things are, that everyone ends up with some regret, that it's unavoidable. But the Stoics saw something different. They understood that regret is not a natural outcome of aging. It is the result of unconscious living, of drifting through time without direction, without awareness, without discipline. And they warned us about this centuries ago. Not with fear, but with clarity. Because they knew that the real tragedy isn't death. It's reaching the end and realizing you were never truly present for your own life. That you spent decades reacting instead of choosing, consuming instead of creating, seeking approval instead of building character. And now, imagine this for a moment, not as a concept, but as your reality. You are 80 years old, sitting alone in a quiet room, your body slower, your energy fading, and for the first time, you can't distract yourself anymore. There's no urgency left, no deadlines, no noise, just silence. And in that silence, your mind begins to replay your life. Not the highlights you show others, but the truth. The moments you avoided, the risks you didn't take, the person you could have become but didn't, and you start to see a pattern, not of failure, but of hesitation, of delay, of choosing comfort over growth. And it hits you all at once, not with panic, but with a deep, irreversible understanding that you had the time. You just didn't use it, and now it's gone. And that feeling, that quiet, heavy realization, is what most people are actually afraid of when they think about aging. Not the wrinkles, not the gray hair, but the possibility that they lived a life that wasn't fully theirs, that they followed a path without ever questioning it. And this is where the Stoics force you to confront something uncomfortable but necessary. You are already aging right now, not in the distant future, not someday, but in this exact moment. Every hour that passes is taking you closer to that final reflection. And the only question that matters is whether you are living in a way that will make that moment peaceful or painful. Because regret is not something that suddenly appears at the end of a life. It is built slowly, day by day, through small decisions, unnoticed habits, and silent compromises. And if you don't become aware of it now, it will become your reality later. And by then, there will be nothing left to change, only something left to understand. The truth is, what you fear in that future moment does not begin at 80. It begins much earlier, in the quiet, ordinary days that feel too small to matter, in the decisions that seem harmless at the time, in the moments when you choose what is easy instead of what is right. Because regret is never created in a single dramatic event. It is built slowly, almost invisibly, through repetition, through habits that shape the direction of your life without you even noticing. And this is why most people miss it, because nothing feels wrong while it is happening. Everything feels normal, acceptable, even justified. And yet this is exactly how a life drifts away, not through chaos, but through comfort. And Seneca warned about this with brutal clarity when he said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And if you really listen to that, it changes everything. Because it means the problem is not time itself. The problem is how you are using it. Or more precisely, how you are losing it without awareness. Because every day you wake up with a certain number of hours, and those hours are your life in its purest form. Not your plans, not your intentions, not your potential, but your actual life, measured in time. And yet most of it is spent reacting, scrolling, worrying about things outside your control, seeking validation, delaying the work that actually matters, and telling yourself that you will get serious tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes next week, next month, next year. And suddenly years have passed, and nothing essential has changed. And this is where Epictetus draws a line that most people never see. He said, "Some things are within our control, and some things are not." And that distinction is not philosophical, it is practical. It is the dividing line between a life of clarity and a life of regret. Because if you spend your time chasing what you cannot control, you will always feel behind, always dissatisfied, always waiting for something external to fix your life. But if you focus only on what is within your control, your actions, your choices, your discipline, your character, then your life begins to take shape with intention, not by accident. And yet this is harder than it sounds, because it requires you to confront something uncomfortable, that many of the things you care about do not actually matter in the long run. The approval of others, the endless comparison, the need to appear successful instead of becoming meaningful. And Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire and still struggled with this, reminded himself constantly, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. And that is not meant to create fear. It is meant to create clarity. Because when you truly understand that your time is limited, your priorities change instantly. You stop tolerating things that drain you. You stop delaying what you know you should do. You stop living as if you have unlimited chances. And you begin to see that every day is not just another day. It is a piece of your life that will never return. And this is where most people hesitate, because they think change requires something dramatic, a complete reset, a new life, a perfect plan. But the Stoics did not believe in that. They believed in something much simpler and much harder: daily awareness, daily discipline, daily reflection. Because they understood that the direction of your life is determined by what you do consistently, not occasionally. And this is where the shift begins, not in a future version of you, but in the present moment, where you decide whether you will continue drifting or start choosing, whether you will keep postponing or start acting, whether you will live unconsciously or begin to pay attention. Because the life you fear regretting is not a distant possibility. It is being built right now, through what you choose to do with this hour, this decision, this moment. And once you see that clearly, you cannot unsee it. And the question becomes unavoidable if nothing changes. Where does this path lead? And more importantly, are you willing to accept that outcome? And if you follow that question honestly, without escaping it, without softening it, you begin to notice something deeper, something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. That regret is not really about the things you did wrong. It is about the person you never allowed yourself to become. Because every time you chose comfort over growth, every time you stayed silent when you should have spoken, every time you delayed the action you knew was necessary, you were not just making a small decision. You were shaping your identity, slowly, quietly, day by day, into someone who settles instead of someone who lives with intention. And this is where the Stoics bring a harsh but liberating truth, that your life is not defined by what happens to you, but by how you respond to it, and more importantly, by what you repeatedly choose. Because character is not built in moments of inspiration. It is built in moments of discipline, when no one is watching, when there is no reward, when it would be easier to do nothing, and yet you act anyway. And this is why Epictetus insisted that philosophy is not something you talk about, it is something you practice. He said, "Do not explain your philosophy, embody it." Because he understood that knowing what is right means nothing if you do not live it. And this is where most people fail, not because they lack knowledge, but because they lack consistency. They know they should take care of their time, but they waste it. They know they should focus on what they control, but they obsess over what they cannot. They know they should act with purpose, but they drift instead. And over time, this gap between what they know and what they do becomes the source of their regret. Not ignorance, but neglect. And this is why Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to return to the present moment, to stop being pulled by distractions, to stop acting as if life was something that would begin later. Because he knew that the present is the only place where change is possible. And yet it is the place people avoid the most, because it demands responsibility. It demands awareness. It demands that you stop blaming circumstances and start owning your choices. And that is uncomfortable, because it removes every excuse. It leaves you alone with one undeniable truth, that your life is the result of what you repeatedly do, not what you intend to do. And once you see that clearly, the illusion disappears. The illusion that there will be a perfect time to start. The illusion that you can delay without consequence. The illusion that you can live unconsciously now and somehow feel fulfilled later. And this is where the turning point happens. Not as a dramatic moment, but as a quiet decision. The decision to stop drifting, to stop negotiating with your own potential, to stop acting like your time is unlimited, and instead, to begin living with clarity, with purpose, with discipline, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Because if you do not take ownership now, you are already choosing the outcome you fear. You are already moving toward that future version of yourself who looks back and wonders what could have been. And the hardest part to accept is that nothing external needs to go wrong for that to happen. You do not need a tragedy. You do not need failure. You only need to continue as you are, to keep delaying, to keep distracting yourself, to keep avoiding the responsibility of becoming who you could be. And that is what makes this so urgent, because the path to regret is not dramatic. It is ordinary. It is built in the small, repeated choices that feel insignificant in the moment, but define everything in the end. And once you understand that, the question is no longer whether you have time. The question is whether you are willing to use it differently. Starting now, in this exact moment, before another day quietly disappears. And this is where the illusion finally breaks. Because you begin to see that the real enemy was never time. It was distraction. Subtle, constant, and almost invisible, pulling you away from what matters and replacing it with what is easy, what is comfortable, what feels good in the moment but leaves nothing behind. And the most dangerous part is that it disguises itself as normal life, as entertainment, as relaxation, as staying informed, as staying connected. But beneath all of it is a quiet trade. Your time in exchange for nothing that truly builds you. And over years, that trade becomes your life. Not through a single decision, but through thousands of small ones that you never questioned. And this is why Seneca warned that people are careful with their money, but careless with their time. Even though time is the only thing that cannot be replaced, because once it is gone completely. And yet people spend it as if they have an endless supply, giving it away to distractions, to trivial concerns, to things that will not matter in a year, let alone at the end of their life. And this is the silent killer. Not failure, not hardship, but unconscious consumption of your own existence, where days blur together, weeks disappear, and you wake up one day wondering where it all went. And if you look closely, you will see the pattern. Not dramatic mistakes, but repeated avoidance, avoiding discomfort, avoiding responsibility, avoiding the work that requires effort and focus. Because it is easier to escape than to engage, easier to consume than to create, easier to delay than to decide. And this is exactly how a person loses control of their life without ever realizing it. Not through external force, but through internal surrender. And Epictetus would say that this is the greatest form of slavery. Not being controlled by others, but being controlled by your own impulses, your own habits, your own inability to direct your attention where it should go. Because if you cannot control your attention, you cannot control your life. And everything begins there, with what you choose to focus on, what you allow into your mind, what you give your energy to. And yet most people never take ownership of this. They let the world decide for them. They let notifications, opinions, trends, and expectations shape their days until their life is no longer their own, but a reaction to everything around them. And this is why Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to withdraw into his own mind, to build an inner space that could not be disturbed by external noise, because he understood that if you do not create that space, the world will fill it for you, and it will not fill it with what matters. It will fill it with what is loud, what is immediate, what is addictive, and over time, that becomes your reality. A life driven by reaction instead of intention. And this is where the shift becomes unavoidable. Because once you see how much of your time has been taken by things that do not matter, you cannot go back to not seeing it. You begin to feel a resistance, a quiet refusal to continue living the same way, because now you understand the cost, not in abstract terms, but in something real, your own life slipping away. And this is not about removing all comfort or becoming extreme. It is about becoming aware, about noticing where your time goes, where your attention goes, where your energy goes, and asking a simple but powerful question: is this building the life I want, or is this slowly taking it away? And if the answer is uncomfortable, that is where change begins. Not with motivation, not with a perfect plan, but with awareness. Because once you are aware, every choice becomes clearer. Every moment becomes an opportunity, not to be perfect, but to be intentional, to choose differently, even in small ways, even when it is difficult. Because those small choices, repeated over time, are what separate a life of regret from a life of clarity. And the moment you stop giving your time away without question is the moment you begin to take your life back. And once you begin to take your time back, something unexpected happens. The noise starts to fade, and in that quiet, you come face to face with a deeper question that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Not what should I do, but who am I becoming through what I do every day? Because the Stoics never measured a life by achievements or status. They measured it by character, by the kind of person you are when no one is watching, when there is no reward, when there is no pressure, only choice. And this is where everything shifts, because you realize that the real danger was never failure. It was living in a way that slowly weakens your character, that makes you dependent on comfort, on approval, on external validation, until you no longer recognize yourself without those things. And this is why Seneca emphasized that true wealth is not what you own, but what you can do without, because the more you depend on things outside your control, the more fragile your life becomes, and the more likely you are to look back with regret, not because you lacked opportunity, but because you lacked independence, because you built a life that required constant conditions to feel okay, instead of building a mind that could remain steady, regardless of circumstances. And this is where the discipline of desire becomes essential, the ability to want only what is within your control, to detach from outcomes, to focus on effort, on virtue, on what you can actually influence. Because once you shift your focus in this way, something powerful happens. You stop wasting energy on things that do not matter, and you start investing it into things that do. Your actions, your habits, your mindset, and over time, this changes everything, not instantly, not dramatically, but steadily. Because a life of clarity is not built in a single moment, it is built through consistency, through small, repeated choices that align with who you want to become. And this is where Marcus Aurelius gives one of the most practical reminders. He said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, and there is no room for interpretation in that, no delay, no excuse, because it brings everything back to action, to the present moment, to what you are doing right now, and whether it reflects the person you claim you want to be, because intention without action is nothing more than illusion. And the longer you live in that illusion, the further you drift from the life you could have lived. And this is the turning point, where you stop thinking of your life as something that will eventually come together, and start seeing it as something that is being built right now, through your daily behavior, your discipline, your choices. And once you see that, you begin to take responsibility in a different way, not as a burden, but as control, because you realize that while you cannot control everything, you can control enough to shape your life in a meaningful direction. And that is all you need. Not certainty, not perfection, just direction, guided by principles that do not change with circumstances. And this is where regret begins to lose its power. Not because you eliminate mistakes, but because you are no longer drifting. You are choosing, you are acting, you are building something real. Something that does not depend on external conditions. And that is what gives a life its weight, its meaning, its stability. Because in the end, you will not measure your life by how comfortable it was or how easy it felt. You will measure it by whether you lived in alignment with your values, whether you became stronger, more disciplined, more aware, whether you used your time with intention instead of letting it slip away. And that is the difference between a life that feels complete and a life that feels unfinished. Not what happened to you, but how you chose to live through it, one decision at a time, until those decisions became your identity, and that identity became your life. And yet, even with this awareness, even with this shift in how you see your time and your choices, there is still one final barrier that most people never overcome, and it is not external, it is internal. It is the resistance to fully accepting reality as it is. Because deep down, many people still hope that life will eventually align with their expectations, that things will become easier, that circumstances will change in their favor, that somehow the future will fix what they are unwilling to face in the present. But the Stoics rejected this completely. They did not build their lives on hope. They built them on acceptance, not passive acceptance, but active alignment with reality, because they understood that suffering, frustration, and ultimately regret come not from life itself, but from the gap between what we want and what actually is. And this is where the principle of amor fati becomes essential. The idea of loving your fate, not just tolerating it, not just enduring it, but embracing it fully. Because everything that happens becomes an opportunity to practice virtue, to strengthen your character, to refine who you are. And this is not easy. It goes against instinct, against comfort, against the desire to control everything. But it is the only way to eliminate the constant inner conflict that drains your energy and keeps you stuck. Because when you resist reality, You waste time. You waste energy. You delay action. And that delay accumulates into something much heavier over time. A life that feels misaligned, incomplete, filled with what could have been. And this is exactly what Marcus Aurelius trained himself to avoid. He reminded himself daily that the world is not there to satisfy his preferences, that events will unfold as they do, and that his role is not to control them, but to respond to them with reason, with discipline, with integrity. And once you begin to adopt this mindset, something shifts again, not in your external circumstances, but in how you move through them. Because you stop waiting for the perfect conditions to act. You stop negotiating with reality. You stop saying, "I will begin when things are easier," and you begin now with what you have, where you are. And this is where true momentum is built, not from motivation, but from acceptance. Because once you accept that life will always contain uncertainty, difficulty, and unpredictability, you stop being surprised by it, and you stop being controlled by it, and instead, you begin to use it. Every obstacle becomes material for growth. Every challenge becomes a test of your discipline. Every moment becomes a chance to act in alignment with your values. And this is why Epictetus emphasized that it is not what happens to you, but how you respond that determines your life. Because two people can face the same situation and walk away with completely different outcomes. One weakened, one strengthened, one resentful, one grateful. And the difference is not in the event. It is in the mindset. And this is where regret loses its foundation entirely. Because regret is built on the belief that things should have been different, that life should have unfolded another way. But once you accept that everything that has happened is part of your path, part of your development, part of the process that shapes you, you stop looking backward with frustration, and you start looking forward with clarity. Because now every moment becomes usable. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is meaningless. Everything contributes to who you are becoming. And that is the final shift. From resisting life to working with it. From wishing for different circumstances to mastering the ones you have. And once you reach that point, the fear of aging changes completely, because you are no longer concerned with what you might lose. You are focused on what you are building right now, through your actions, your mindset, your discipline. And that is something that does not fade with time. It compounds, it strengthens, it carries forward. And it is the only thing that ensures that when you finally reach that quiet moment of reflection, you will not be overwhelmed by what you failed to do, but grounded in what you chose to become. And when you reach this point, something inside you becomes impossible to ignore. A quiet clarity that cuts through everything that once confused you. Because now you understand that the future you feared is not some distant version of yourself. It is simply the result of what you continue to do today. And that realization changes how you see every moment, every choice, every hour. Because time is no longer something abstract. It becomes immediate, tangible, something you can either use or lose. And this is where most people hesitate one last time, because they realize that there is no dramatic turning point waiting for them, no external event that will force them to change, No perfect moment that will suddenly make everything clear. There is only this moment, and what they choose to do with it. And that responsibility can feel overwhelming at first, because it removes the comfort of delay. It removes the illusion that you can wait without consequence. But it also gives you something far more powerful: control over the direction of your life. Not complete control over outcomes, but control over your actions, your mindset, your discipline. And that is enough. Because as Epictetus taught, you do not need to control everything. You only need to control what is yours. And what is yours is how you choose to live, right now, in this moment. And this is where the idea of daily reflection becomes essential. Not as a ritual, but as a tool for awareness. Because if you do not examine your life, you will not notice when it drifts. And drift is the quiet beginning of regret. And Seneca practiced this every day, reviewing his actions, his thoughts, his choices, not to judge himself harshly, but to correct his course, to realign with his values, to ensure that he was not unconsciously moving in the wrong direction. And this is something you can do, not in a complicated way, but in a simple, honest way. Asking yourself at the end of each day, did I use my time well? Did I act according to my principles? Did I move closer to the person I want to become? And if the answer is no, that is not failure. It is awareness. And awareness gives you the chance to adjust, to improve, to act differently tomorrow, and over time. This process compounds. It sharpens your focus, strengthens your discipline, and builds a life that is intentional instead of accidental. And this is how you close the gap between who you are and who you could be. Not through a single decision, but through repeated reflection and correction. And this is also where the fear of the future begins to fade. Because you are no longer guessing where your life is heading. You are actively shaping it, day by day, with clarity and purpose. And that removes uncertainty in a way nothing else can, because you are no longer relying on chance. You are relying on your own consistency, your own discipline, your own ability to stay aligned with what matters. And this is what gives a life its sense of direction, not external validation, not temporary success, but internal alignment. The feeling that your actions match your values, that your time is being used with intention, that you are not drifting, but moving forward with purpose. And once you experience that, even briefly, you will not want to go back, because you will see how different it feels from the unconscious way of living that most people accept. And this is where everything comes together, not as a conclusion, but as a realization that the life you want is not something you find. It is something you build, moment by moment, through what you choose to do with your time. And that means the future you once feared is no longer something you wait for. It is something you are already shaping, right now, through your awareness, your discipline, and your willingness to live with intention instead of delay. And now you begin to see the full picture. Not as an idea, but as something real, something that shapes how you move through your life from this point forward. Because everything that once felt distant, abstract, or theoretical is now immediate, personal, and unavoidable. The future version of you is no longer a concept. It is a direction, and that direction is being decided right now in ways so subtle that most people never notice them. But once you become aware, you cannot return to that ignorance. You start to see time differently, not as something you pass through, but as something you actively spend, like currency that is constantly leaving your hands whether you pay attention or not. And this is where the final layer of clarity emerges, because it forces you to confront a question that is both simple and uncomfortable. If your life continues exactly as it is today, if your habits do not change, if your priorities remain the same, if your attention continues to be pulled by the same distractions, where does this path lead? Not in theory, but in reality. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you no longer have the energy you have today, when the opportunities you take for granted are no longer available, when time has quietly reduced your options, not through punishment, but through the natural progression of life. And this is where Marcus Aurelius offered a perspective that cuts through all hesitation. He reminded himself that you live only in the present moment, and that everything else, the past and the future, exists only in thought. And if that is true, then the only place your life can actually change is here now, in what you choose to do next. Not what you plan to do, not what you hope to do, but what you actually do. Because action is the only thing that moves your life forward. Everything else is delay. And delay, repeated long enough, becomes regret. And this is where people often misunderstand what it means to live with urgency. They think it means rushing, doing more, chasing more, filling every moment with activity. But that is not what the Stoics taught. Urgency is not about speed. It is about intention. It is about knowing what matters and refusing to waste your time on what does not. It is about simplifying your life down to what is essential and committing to it fully, without distraction, without hesitation, without the constant need to escape into something easier. And this requires a level of honesty that most people avoid, because it forces you to admit that many of the things you spend your time on are not necessary, not meaningful, not aligned with who you want to become. And once you see that, the choice becomes clear. Not easy, but clear. You either continue on the same path and accept the outcome that comes with it, or you begin to change your behavior. Not dramatically, but consistently. Starting with what is directly in front of you, how you spend your next hour, how you respond to your next challenge, how you direct your attention in this moment, because this is where your life is actually lived, not in big decisions, but in small ones, repeated daily. And this is why Epictetus emphasized training, not inspiration, because inspiration fades, but training builds something stable, something reliable, something that carries you forward even when you do not feel motivated. And that is what creates a life without regret, not perfection, not constant success, but consistency, alignment, and awareness. And once you understand this, the idea of aging begins to lose its weight, because you are no longer measuring your life by how much time has passed, but by how intentionally you have used it. And that changes everything, because now every day becomes an opportunity, not to be perfect, but to be present, to act with purpose, to build something that does not disappear with time. And that is the only thing that remains when everything else fades. Not what you owned, not what you achieved, but who you became through the way you chose to live, moment by moment, until those moments became your life. And when everything becomes this clear, when you no longer hide behind distraction, when you no longer delay what you know matters, when you no longer pretend that time is something you can afford to waste, there is one final realization that settles in, quiet but undeniable, that the life you feared regretting is no longer ahead of you. It is either being built or avoided right now, in real time, through your actions, your discipline, your awareness. And at this point, there is no more confusion, no more illusion, only choice. Because you now understand something most people never fully accept, that there will be a moment, whether you are ready for it or not, when everything slows down, when the noise fades, when there is nothing left to chase, nothing left to prove, and you are left alone with the sum of your life. Not your intentions, not your plans, not what you almost did, but what you actually became. And that moment will not ask you how busy you were. It will not care about how many things you started. It will not measure your life by how comfortable it felt. It will reveal something much simpler and much harder to face. Whether you lived with awareness or drifted without direction, whether you chose your path or followed what was given to you, whether you acted when it mattered or delayed until it was too late. And this is why the Stoics returned again and again to the same principle. Not because it was easy, but because it was essential. That your time is limited, and the only way to live without regret is to use it with intention. Because as Marcus Aurelius wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. And when you truly understand that, it does not create fear, it creates focus. It removes everything unnecessary, everything trivial, everything that does not contribute to who you are becoming. And it leaves you with something simple but powerful. The present moment and what you choose to do with it. And this is where everything comes together, not as a dramatic ending, but as a quiet certainty that you already know what matters. You already know where you are wasting time. You already know what you have been avoiding. And the only question left is whether you will continue ignoring it or finally act on it. Because the difference between a life filled with regret and a life that feels complete is not found in luck, not found in circumstances, not found in opportunity. It is found in daily choices, repeated consistently, aligned with what you know is right. Even when it is difficult, even when it requires effort, even when no one is watching, because those are the moments that define you. Those are the moments that build your life, and over time, they accumulate into something real, something solid, something that does not disappear when everything else fades. And this is what removes the fear of that final moment, because you are no longer wondering what could have been. You are grounded in what is. You are not looking back with hesitation. You are looking back with clarity, knowing that you used your time, that you faced what was uncomfortable, that you did not drift through your life unconsciously. And that is the only thing that matters in the end. Not perfection, not success in the way the world defines it, but alignment, awareness, and the quiet confidence that you did not waste the one thing you were given, your time. And once you reach that point, aging is no longer something you fear. It becomes something you accept, because you are no longer running from your life. You are fully inside it, moment by moment, choice by choice, until those choices become your identity, and that identity becomes a life you do not regret. If something in this message stayed with you, even quietly, then do not ignore it, because sometimes the most important shifts in life do not come from loud moments, but from small realizations that slowly change the way you see your time, your choices, and yourself. And if this perspective helped you pause, reflect, or see your life a little more clearly, then sharing it with someone else who might need it could make more difference than you think. Because many people are walking through their days without ever stopping to question where their path is leading. And sometimes one message is enough to wake them up. And if you want to continue exploring these ideas, to keep strengthening your mindset, your discipline, and your clarity, then staying connected here can be a simple way to remind yourself of what truly matters. Not through noise, but through consistent reflection. Channel subscribe to turn on notifications. Let it not be out of habit, but as a quiet commitment to your own growth, your own awareness, your own life. And wherever you are right now, whatever stage of life you are in, may you move forward with clarity, with strength, and with the calm confidence that comes from living intentionally. And may your days be steady, your mind be clear, and your life be guided not by regret, but by purpose, peace, and quiet fulfillment. See you next video.